Supports. Some people love them, some people hate them. And they can really make or break your experiences. And since you guys voted for it, we're going to dive into PrusaSlicer, and we're going to start off with supports. Let's get back to basics. Hey, thanks for joining us again. We are doing a deep dive onto support generation inside of PrusaSlicer. It's the first in many videos to come. We do polls right here on our YouTube channel, so if you want to vote for maybe the next subject or the next video, make sure that you keep an eye on that YouTube community tab. So we do post there relatively often. We would love your input, but we had an overwhelming support for, well, PrusaSlicer. And the next best thing that we've got here is supports and you. I'm going to call this supports and you. I feel like it makes some sense. And yes, for those wondering, the lighting is still very dim. I am still a little photosensitive. We are getting there. We are getting there. The headache is only a 7 out of 10, and it is not an 11. And that's a Spinal Tap joke.
These go to 11.
For those that are wondering what the heck he's talking about, I did a whole vlog right here talking about some of the stuff that I'm going through and brought you guys along with me as much as I was allowed. But that's not what you're here for. You are here to look at this beautiful bust of Loki designed by our good buddy Wekster. So I'm going to give him a little bit of a shout out here first, because Wekster makes some amazing models and has a Patreon of which we are supporters, and you can go through here and just take a look at all the neat stuff. Now, I don't exactly remember what it looks like if you are not a patron, but guys, it's like basically free to become a patron for him, okay? Like, he charges next to nothing for these models, and they're freaking gorgeous. A lot of them are optimized for support. Now, something that PrusaSlicer has that even SuperSlicer doesn't, by the way, we'll card to that video right here. We just did a video all about kind of the 30,000 foot level of SuperSlicer paint on supports. Actually, the only other slicer that we've covered that has support generation similar to PrusaSlicer is Simplify 3D, and they had it first. I still think they've done it the best, but we will do a dive into them later. This is about PrusaSlicer. So if you have an issue with supports, make sure that you get subscribed, because this video is going to be all about supports. I am so excited for this. So let's jump in. We have our models, okay? And you might look at this and say, Grant, that can't print without supports. And yes, you'd be right. It can't. But I have proof here that you can print it with basically none. Wekster designs these to be printed with as minimal support as possible, and what you are seeing is the actual print layout that we had for this setup. And of course, acid green base, because why not? So we're going to go ahead and get this thing sliced up. We're using bone stock PrusaSlicer settings, and this should help us get an idea. PrusaSlicer will tell you, hey, ding dong, you got to put some support in here. And let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about support. Support is not just what you should get when you need help, but it is also something that can assist you in printing over thin air. So printing over troubled water and such. Basically, think of a 3D printer like a big computer-controlled hot glue gun, but instead of hot glue, it's wet spaghetti. Can you draw wet spaghetti across an open platform? No, you cannot. And that means you can't do it with a 3D printer either. So you need to have either support or damn good bridging settings. That'll be a future video. Make sure you get subscribed for that. Supports in PrusaSlicer are really done well. Let's take a look at Loki here for just a second. We can see that we've got very little. Are you not detecting bridging perimeters? Let's find out. Let's see if you are actually detecting bridging perimeters. You're not. Apparently, stock Prusa speed. Wow, none of them detect this. Make sure you turn on detect bridging perimeters. That's kind of a deal. You do want that. So, all right, let's go back out and reslice this bad girl. Bad boy. Model. Let's slice the model. Okay, now we've go ahead and got the correct settings on. You can see there's a lot more blue. Dabba-dee-dab. Okay. This is not an Eiffel joke, Grant. Move on. We've got a lot of bridging here. And, well, technically the Prusa could probably handle most of this. You might want to go ahead and add some support, especially underneath his chinny chin. Because, well, if the back of his head might look ridiculous, that's okay. Especially, we have some bridging perimeters here, but I don't know if I'd be too worried about it. Definitely have some bridging here that we want to deal with. And these are all the blue lines you see are overhang perimeters. Not a ton, but something still to keep in mind because these are really where you should have support. Now, if we just go to PrusaSlicer and we just click everywhere, and we hit slice, you can see that we are left with a disaster of support material. Now, there are ways to adjust this, so let's take a look at it. It's going to keep thinking, and I'm just going to come in here and take a look at support material. So we have our overhang threshold set to 55 degrees. Totally agree. This is a great size to have for overhang thresholds. Some printers can do more. Some printers have to do less. Figure out what works for you, but for a Prusa i3 MK3S, 55 degrees for your overhang threshold. Perfect. The contact Z distance, and it will tell you, is a vertical distance between the object and support material interface. Setting this at 0 will also prevent PrusaSlicer from using bridge flow and speed for the first object layer. I do not like 0.1 millimeters for my contact Z distance. Here's why. At 0.1 millimeters, it is likely that your support is going to bond directly to your part and make it a nightmare to pull the support material off. If you are already supporting something because you really just couldn't find a better way to print it, you've come to terms with the fact that the underside of your support may not look perfect, and that is something to bear in mind. And yes, I know one of you is going to chime in, Grant, my overhangs look beautiful. My supports come off cleanly, and I have no scarring whatsoever. Hey, then prove it. Tweet at us at 3D_Musketeers, and I'd love to show it in an upcoming video that we happen to be working on. See what I did there? We have some scarring on the side of this model, but it is not because of support material, so please forgive me about that. We got some scarring right here on the edges. That is because we actually did a time-lapse, of which you can actually see one running behind me right now for an upcoming time-lapse Tuesday, but we'll play the video for Loki right here as I'm talking a little bit about the supports, because, well, technically, we could have gotten away with probably none. We did see some issues right here at the ears where we should have supported it but chose not to. You can actually see where the side of his ear is just not properly printed. And that's because there was nothing there to support it. Now, we took that risk saying, you know, far from good, good from far kind of deal. And it's not going to get picked up on the camera anyways. And it might have. You'll have to tell me because I don't remember seeing the video. But having that contact Z distance of 0.2 means that we might get some of that scarring on the edges of materials that are supported because you have more of an air gap. 0.1 might work. I say give it a shot and see what happens. But don't be surprised if your support material does weld itself. Now, the pattern is normally rectilinear. You have rectilinear grid or honeycomb. Just leave it as rectilinear. Under no circumstances, unless you viably need it, do not wrap sheaths around your supports. It will make them considerably stronger, but basically impossible to remove. Because instead of being able to, like, squish and move the support around to pull it out, you basically have to tear it out. It is a nightmare. PrusaSlicer does a fine job with the support material. You don't have to worry about it. Pattern spacing, I think stock PrusaSlicer is a little wasteful. I think 5 or even 4 is plenty fine here. Our pattern angle at 0, honestly, that's all going to depend on the models that you are using. That is the pattern of which the support material is being created. So this is 0, sometimes you use 90, other times you use 45, depending on which way you want the lines to go. You can use, honestly, whatever angle that you want. Interface layers. 2 is okay. I like to err on the side of more interface, more better. So interface layers are going to be dense support right before your part builds on top of it. Normally, we used to go with a 0.1 millimeter line spacing, but we have adopted the stock 0.2 more recently. And this was only after actually reprinting all of the fan shrouds for the Mark III S's in polycarbonate so that they don't sag. They're normally made out of ABS, and over time they will sag a little bit. Polycarbonate, strong like bull, won't have that problem. Interface loops is not really something I've had a lot of luck with. It seems to cause issues, especially in Bowden printers, where you're just going to start grinding filament because you're making little tiny loops at the top. That does assist with the support pulling away from the model, and if you do use interface loops, you can go with a shorter Z distance. Just be aware of that. But no, if you don't have your extruder tuned really well and your pressure is not tuned really well, you might have some problems there. Support from build plate only. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. Let me know in the comments if you need more explanation. XY separation is all about the distance between your support and your part. And this is going to be 50% of the extrusion width or something in millimeters. And I really think you need at least 70%, not 760, 70%. And normally we actually go with like 0.5 all the way up to 0.7 millimeters. When you look at your printer settings under extruder 1, you will notice things like your length of your extrusion. You will also notice your minimum travel after retraction. If your printer does not travel more than 1 millimeter after retraction, it won't make a retraction. So be careful. We've had this issue where it's been so close that the printer chooses not to retract, and your support lines bond to your part, creating some scarring on the print that really sucks to take off. Now, we also have don't support bridges. That one is totally up to you. Some people like it, some people don't. If you're doing a big part with lots of bridging and you need it to work, support the freaking bridging. The extra time it's going to take, the little bit of extra material, is well worth a much higher guarantee that your part is going to come out perfect the first time. Think about it, right? It is never the cost of the materials that's the issue here. It's always the time. The print going on behind me is 11 hours. It's like 150 grams of filament. 150 grams of filament is nothing compared to the 11 hours of print time that thing is going to take. So think about it, right? You might say, you know what? It's worth it. I'll just spend the extra material. Highly recommend this, especially on big flat parts with lots of overhangs. So let's go back to our dear friend Loki, and you can see he's disappeared. No, he's right here, but he's disappeared from the screen. And that's because we've changed some settings. So PrusaSlicer is still over here in the preview section, but we now have to reslice him. So let's go ahead and reslice our boy Loki here. Beautiful. So we have the newly supported model from Loki, and well, it still looks like hot garbage. So let's understand this. And this is where I love one of the beautiful features of PrusaSlicer. And it is the paint on supports. Let's look at it. Yeah, support alone, we're at an hour and a half and almost an hour for the interface because there is so much support material here. But we can do paint on supports, which is right here. Okay, you can auto set by angle. I will tell you from experience, with MK3Ss, you can go to 25 to 30, like, totally adequately without any issues. So we will go ahead and enforce. And there you go. It shows us all those areas in blue. It's saying, I need support material, please. And I'm like, no, dang it, Timmy, you don't need support material right there. You'll be just fine. So how do we fix that? Well, we have our brush, and if you look, you can see we've got a brush that is a sphere. You can also change it to a circle. And what this allows us to do is actually either add support, which I can do this, and that adds support, or you can hold the shift key, and that goes ahead and removes it. We can also directly block support by using the right mouse click. The red is block. You can see all of that right here. I believe Control Z works. It totally does. Now me, I prefer the sphere. We're going to go a little bit larger because we got a lot of cleaning to do. If we look, we don't need any of this on the eyebrows because, again, it's a very, very small amount of overhang, so I'm not too worried about it. We don't need that in there. We don't need that in there. The nose will be fine. Again, very, very small overhangs. No big deal whatsoever. We can look up onto the hair and we see we've got some up there too. Not worried about that. And we are literally able to just come in here and say, I'm just going to remove the support. Now, down here, not a huge fan of the way this fractal pattern looks, so I'm going to come in and just draw my own. Give him a nice blue chin. We're going to come through and just remove all the support from his tie. It does not need it. We can remove it from his badge. We saw that too. Now, I do wish the PrusaSlicer would show us, like, on an easy preview what the support would look like, so I can just go through and quickly delete it. But, like, where the pin goes, definitely don't care about support there. And we've got a lot of little random bits of support in the hair that don't matter. Your printer can likely bridge this. I don't care what printer that you have, as long as it is reasonably decent, you will be fine. And if you're wondering all about reasonably decent 3D printers, we did a rundown of some of our favorite cheap 3D printers out there. I think almost every one of them is under $1,000. And I'm sorry, this kind of tech for under $1,000, you're basically stealing it. I'm gonna clean out his ears there. Got a little bit on the hair. I'm gonna leave the support material there. We will slice it and see what it looks like. But I'm literally just going through here, cleaning up some of this, well, errant support that we don't need. Previously, you had to do this very, very, very difficult. It was so much more difficult. So much more difficult. It was difficult. Because you had to go into a you had to go to like a support blocker. It had to be a box, a cylinder, a sphere, or a slab where you could load something. It was a nightmare, and that's still what you have to do in some of the other slicers. This one is just so nice. It's so nice. So we have, oh man, there's still lots in the hair. I remember working on this model now, getting it ready for the time lapse. It sucked. Like there's just so many little pieces of support material that are just not needed. So you guys saw what he looked like before. We'll have an on-screen image to show you the differences between these two once it is sliced. But remember, we want to do for support enforcers only. Now understand, let's do this one real quick too. Real quick. I know this one could be down to 25 and it will work just fine. Beautiful. Now it's support enforcers only, and we'll put them side by side so you guys can see it. So I'll try to shift this one over and we'll put the old one there so you can see it. But, I mean, look, I don't have to sit here and tell you how much support that I just removed. Stevie Wonder could show you how much support I just removed. And this is one of the great features about PrusaSlicer. Now, also looking at this, I would do support at 90 degrees for this model. Yeah, I would. I would do support at 90 degrees. And there are still some little errant pieces, and it's funny how you end up missing things because you don't always notice it. The blue is tough to see at times, but it is very valuable. Like before, like, come on. It can bridge that. It's fine. It doesn't need me for this. Yeah, I mean, we got rid of the stuff under there. There's still a ton here for reasons I just don't understand. But let's take a look one more time. Well, I guess there is some support here. Oh, you know what? There it is. So the model's been decimated, and decimated effectively reduces the amount of polygons on the model to make it not 6 gigabytes or something crazy stupid. And that means sometimes hard edges and things do get a little lost in translation, which is totally fine. We expect this kind of thing at this point. We also know we don't really care about the top of his head, so we can just go and get rid of it all. Okay. Theoretically, that worked. We'll see if it does work. This might be a case where it would make more sense for you to just add support where you need it there, underneath the ears. We might need a little bit under the horned helmet as well, but I am going to make a change under support material and go from 0 degrees to 90. I believe that will give us a better chance of getting support where we need it. And this brings me back to one of my gripes about PrusaSlicer. I know, he's like a Prusa fanboy, yet he's griping over PrusaSlicer. Yes, its support generation is still not as good as Simplify 3D. It will eventually get better. Prusa is actively working to make it better, but it is not as good yet. So we can see this is honestly pretty darn good. I am actually pretty satisfied with this. But we can also do ourselves a favor here and actually turn off the support in the preview. It's still there, don't worry, but we just hidden it. We can see, you can probably get away with that. I showed you guys, which ear did I show you? This ear. So you can see we probably should have had support on that side of his ear. We did not put support underneath his horn helmet, and you see it did fine. The other ear looks considerably better. Like I said before, we do have some Z-zits, which are kind of a fact of life when you're doing octo-lapse time lapses. And if you are interested in setting up a Raspberry Pi to run your 3D printer, let us know. We'd love to do a video on it. Tom's 3D just did one, and I mean, it was a great video, but we would love to do one for you guys too if you want to see it. So let's take a look real quick then. We still have some superfluous support, like really, we don't need that. So you know what? Let's go back and let's just remove all. All of it's gone. Now we're just going to use our brush and we're going to paint on supports where we want it. All we have to do is just draw. We'll draw there, draw a little bit there. I'm going to put really big chunks of support because I just don't like when PrusaSlicer does a very small amount of support. I am going to support the entire back of his hair. I honestly think that's about all that he needs. I'm going to even out the chin because it's going to bother me if I don't. And let's check you real quick. Auto set by angle, enforce. Yeah, honestly, that's probably fine. We now go ahead and reslice it and look at how little support material that we have. This is really how the support material should be. And yes, you can fine-tune your overhang settings. You can fine-tune all of your settings to sit there all day and get that perfect support generation, or you can just paint it on. This is a new feature inside of PrusaSlicer. And it's awesome. It's been out for maybe 6 or 8 months. I'm going to check their GitHub, because I want to see when they did paint on supports. So we are now looking at some of the old versions of PrusaSlicer, and I want to see when they added paint on supports. It was right here. It was January 11th, 2021. This was a big freaking deal. The paint on supports are huge, and there's an entire Prusa knowledge base video on it. You can watch this video. We'll have it linked in the description down below so you guys can check it out. But realistically, paint on supports is what truly started to make PrusaSlicer, in my opinion, one of the heavyweights out there. Because previously, this whole system of like right-clicking and adding a support blocker that's a box and then having to move it and then you lose the stupid thing. I hate this. It's so cumbersome. It's great for models that are very simple and easy to understand, but for crazy models like the Loki from Wekster, it's a pain in the rear. I don't want to do that. That's why initially, for models like this, I would have used Simplify 3D. But now with paint on supports from Prusa, it is still not as good. I think the support generation inside of Simplify 3D is still better. But PrusaSlicer has released updates in the past 2.5 years, so I have more faith in them. If you're wondering about Simplify 3D, we did a whole video on it. We'll card to it right there. I like this. It's still got work, but boy howdy, it's so much more powerful than what it used to be, right? Because the previous was just, imagine trying to make little boxes to go there, little boxes full of ticky-tacky. You don't want to go through all that. And I didn't either. So having paint on supports is why I'm so glad you guys chose this in our community poll for the video that you wanted us to do, because I was excited and I wanted to do PrusaSlicer first personally, although Kira was like a close second. We'll probably do Kira next because I think it did get the second amount of votes. But yeah, first off, beautiful model by Wekster. He absolutely oriented it in a way that keeps it from needing a ton of support. This is nothing. If we were to say take the Loki bust and I don't know how a normal human would stand, would be something like that, just like that. I'm gonna do Loki a favor. I'm gonna go ahead and cut him. Okay, we're gonna show you guys something real quick here. I'm just gonna cut him because I don't want this bottom surface to be a problem. So we're gonna get rid of the lower part. We're gonna go and do the cut. Okay, now watch this. You saw how little support was on there previously. That's actually a good looking bust too. Come on, Wekster, my boy, you're doing great work here. We're gonna auto set by angle. Look at all the extra support material that's needed. All over the friggin' eyebrows, the crown, just, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and slice it. Also, it wouldn't look this cool on the base. I like these sliced models like this. I just think it looks cooler on the base because it gives you more of the actual bust without it being so physically large that doesn't fit on some of the smaller printers out there. Like, just give you an idea, even down to the freaking the pin on his jacket, you can read it. It says Loki. It's amazing what Wekster. You can't even see his friggin' face. He looks like Cousin It with horns. It's nuts. And yes, you could go in here and paint supports. The hair is definitely better this way, but yeah, of course it is, right? You brought the model from here to here. The hair is going to be easier to support, but the rest of the face where you care about the quality isn't. And we don't want his nose or his crown looking like a clock out of a Salvador Dali painting. We want him to look like Loki, whether you like the guy or not. We still want him to look this way. If you didn't want him to look this way, well, hey, you better go lose yourself and get yourself a plate of mom's spaghetti. Because, yeah, that's the only way he's going to look bad. But yeah, I love the new support generation in PrusaSlicer. I think that it's valuable. I think this is garbage. Like, why? Why is this here? I'm praising PrusaSlicer and it's doing things like, why? What is your purpose? Take me to your leader. What is your purpose? I don't know. What is your purpose? So again, for a model like this, I'm coming in here, dude. I'm removing all. Grant, don't do that. You are going to manually add in supports on your own. I'm going to come in here, do that. Got to get the whole schnoz in there. This time, definitely going to do that. Let's see. That one too. That there. A little bit of that. A little bit of that. Look, he looks like he's in the Insane Clown Posse. Let's have him look a little bit less like a genocidal maniac. And let's now take a look at how supports would look here. Well, that's still a fair bit, Grant. That's still a fair bit. But you see, there's no like random little bits on the back of his head. Way less support material. And if we look, it's really not as dense as you think. And a lot of it should come off pretty easily. So yeah, let me know in the comments, what do you think about support generation inside of PrusaSlicer? Do you like it? Do you hate it? And why? I'd love to know. I like it. I think that there's a lot of value in it, and PrusaSlicer is clearly getting better. As you can see, there's lots of iterations coming out for their software all the time. But yeah, they're doing lots of updates here, and I hope you guys will support them. I do, and I'm going to try to keep them honest, right? Ultimately, PrusaSlicer is one of the backbones of their company. It's clear that a lot of people can make great 3D printers for not a whole lot of money. But a good slicer, that's tough. And if you don't believe me, you can check out our slicer series right here. You can see that I've had some mixed reviews on some of these slicers. Some have been great, like SuperSlicer was awesome. Kirimoto was awesome. Matter Control, I am still not happy with you. I love this. I love that Prusa is constantly working on it. And think about it, this is a company that just started making 3D printers randomly. Now all of a sudden they have their own fork of Slick 3R. Oh, so great. I love what they're doing. There's a lot still to go. I think the support generation still needs quite a bit of tweaking, but I'm going to make sure that we stay on the forefront of it. We're going to be looking at compiling the new 2.4 alpha very soon so we can show you guys what it looks like in a sneak peek. So make sure you get subscribed for that. That's really all I got about supports and PrusaSlicer. Let me know, do you have any tips or tricks for the newbies? Let us know in the comments, because, hey, if you haven't noticed, I try to reply to basically every one of you because I love talking to you. You guys are our community, and it's a lot of fun for me. It's part of my day. I can't go anywhere or do much these days. My back hurts, and I had friggin' headaches all the time, so might as well hang out with you guys on the internet. So, anyways, we'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones, and as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. Damn it, it's Dolly. It's Dolly. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about PrusaSlicer, we'll have the PrusaSlicer playlist right below, because now there are 2 videos and we can make a playlist out of it. But yes, Patreon is coming soon, TM. Keep an eye out for that. I will see you guys down in the comments. Take care. Don't forget to leave a like.